We're going to pick up in verse 7 and read through verse 11. I'll go ahead and read it all, then we'll break it down. Verse 7, and he began speaking a parable to the invited guests. He's still at the party. When he noticed how they had been picking out the places of honor at the table, saying to them, when you are invited by someone to a wedding feast, do not take the place of honor, for someone more distinguished than you may have been invited by them. And he who invited you both will come and say to you, give your place to this man. And then in disgrace, you proceed to occupy the last place. But when you are invited, go and recline at the last place, so that the one who has invited you comes, he may say to you, friend, move up higher. Then you will have honor in all the sight who are at the table with you. Verse 11, for everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. Awesome verse right there. So in verse 7, all Jesus has been doing, he's just kind of been sitting back, he's been observing what the other guests have been doing. Other guests are showing up, and as they show up, they're trying to find the different places of honor at the table. Now generally, way back when there's a party going on, you got two choices of setup. First of all, the room could be set up in like a horseshoe, where you guys just follow the direction. And there's a chair right in the middle down here where like the host or the guest of honor would sit. And then these chairs right here, right next to them, those are the high places of honor. And as you got higher up into the horseshoe, those were the chairs, like least places of honor. So once you got up to the very top and you're farthest away from the host, you're technically sitting in the chair that's of the least place of honor. Also, what you can do is you can have two long rows of tables set up where you have your host, your guest of honor, sitting at the head of the table, and then the chairs closest to him, those are the highest places of honor. And then the chairs all the way down on this end, those where you don't want to sit there because you'll never get to talk to the host. No one cares about you because you're so far away. So that's kind of how the rooms are set up. So Jesus is watching as people are showing up. They're trying to claim the places of honor. They're trying to claim the chairs that are closest to the host. And I don't know how they did that. I don't know if they had the whole write your name on a cup and put it there. Or, I don't know, they could be like a dog where you kind of lift your leg on the chair and mark your territory. I don't know what they did back then. But you guys are all starting to get that now. I get you. But who knows what they did. But either way, they're kind of jockeying for spots. They're trying to be closest to the host. Now, Jesus points this out. He's like, what are you guys doing? Like, if you're an invited guest, don't just assume you're the most important guest. Don't just assume you're the most important guy. What if someone more important than you is here? You're going to be so embarrassed when the host comes up to you and says, hey, you know what? You're sitting in chair number 3, but you actually belong in chair number 17. Like, sorry, I hate to do this in front of everybody, but you got to move. You're just going to be embarrassed. Instead, what you need to do, what Jesus is saying, what you need to do is start at chair 17. When you show up, just go sit down in the last chair. That way the host can go, hey, what are you doing all the way down there? You're number 2. You need to move down here. You need to sit in a high place of honor. Verse 11, I mentioned how awesome it was because it speaks to me personally as well as it challenges me. Let me read it again. It says, for everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. Sometimes I struggle with that. Sometimes, I walk into a room and I automatically want everyone's eyes to be on me. I want to be the center of attention. And I know that's just not me. There's others of you that sometimes you like to have the attention. You like to have the focus put on you. It doesn't matter what else is going on. As long as the attention's on me, everything's cool. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I struggle with that. It's hard to come into a new situation. It would be hard for me to walk into this building tonight and just sit back and be humble. It's hard to sometimes come back and just say, hey, I'm here to serve. I'm here to help. It's hard to say, hey, what can I do for you? As opposed to, what can you do for me? Well, we looked at 2 different stories tonight here in Luke chapter 14. First we see Jesus pass a test that the Pharisees had for him. They thought they had him this time. They had tested him so many times up until this point, but they had never gotten him. And this time they were so sure. Like, if he heals a man, he's broken the law. If he doesn't heal him, he's not compassionate, and he doesn't deserve to have all these people following him. They thought they had him, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. He turned it back on them. How comforting is it that we serve a God that never messed up? How comforting is it that we serve a God that's incapable of messing up? That no matter how many times people came at him with these traps, with these pranks, with these tests, he never, ever messed up. It's just cool to think about that. Cool to think about that this God is on my side. I'm on his side. Goodness, it's his side. Secondly, we observed Jesus while he was observing other guests at the party. You know, all these people, they're walking around as they're showing up like, oh, I'm the most important guest. Oh, no, I'm the most important guest. All these people are trying to find these places of honor at the table. You know, he simply explained that it's better if you don't exalt yourself. If you try to exalt yourself, you're going to end up being humble. That's what he's saying. If you come into a thing that you're the most important thing on earth, you're going to be humble. What he tries to say is, you know, if you humble yourself first, you're giving yourself the opportunity to be exalted. Now, how many of you guys, you can be honest, you can raise your hands, how many of you guys struggle with this issue of wanting to be at the better spot at the table? Or wanting to have attention, or wanting to be the best at something? You know, when I was writing this, I was like, well, you know, maybe these kids won't think like, oh, I don't care what spot is at the table. How about this? How many of you guys struggle with this when you meet someone new, or like even your own friends? You meet them and you kind of like size them up a little bit. For guys, it's like when I meet someone new, I'm like, hey, I'm Jayse, nice to meet you. Yeah, I could take him. Yeah, I don't know. Guys kind of do that. They kind of like, you know, if it came down to blows, like I could probably take this guy. You know, guys do that. Or like, yeah, I'm way better looking than that guy. Or I really wish I was him. No, I don't know. The guys kind of do that. And for girls, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm prettier than her. Yes. Or, oh no, she did not wear the same shirt as me. Like, I don't know what girls do. They're always like sizing people up. You're always like, all right, you know, I'm better than you. Or, you know, I could probably do some work and then I'll be better than you. This, to me, that's exactly the same thing. It's not just the physical act of picking a spot at the table. You know, it's not this act of saying like, oh man, I gotta sit here because I'm more honored, I'm better. But it's actually looking at the other guests. It would be me walking in the party and looking around and be like, yes, I'm better than everybody here. I'm going to spot number 2 right next to the host. It's actually doing that. It's actually sitting back and judging people based on how they look, based on how they talk, based on how they're dressed. And you're trying to find ways to prove to yourself that you're better than them. We all do it. It's just a sad fact of life. I do it sometimes. I'm not standing up here saying I'm better than you. Jesus very simply says, don't do that. It's so hard. It goes against us as human nature as wanting to be, you know, for a minute it's like, oh, we want to be dominant. You know, we want to be the best. But verse 11, I'll read it again. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. You know, sizing people up and trying to determine that you're better, it doesn't get you anywhere. In the long run, it doesn't matter. Me standing up here for 20 minutes and just saying, better than you, better than you, better than you, not quite as good as you, better than you, better than you. I'm going through it, it doesn't get me anywhere. It's just a waste of time. You know, as you get older, you'll notice if you do that, if you're constantly judging, if you're constantly trying to find ways to be better than people, you're going to start losing friends. You're going to start losing friends. And then you're going to see that the only friends you have are the friends who are exactly like you. And your friends who are exactly like you are judging you all the time. Trying to say like, I'm better than Ryan Harper. I'm wearing a collared shirt, and he showed up wearing that. See, all the time. That's why me and Ryan are such good friends, because we're always judging each other. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's what's going to happen if you keep up with this mindset. You know, you're going to lose your close friends, you're going to lose your true friends. All of a sudden, the only friends you have are the friends that you're competing with all the time. You know, you will truly be set apart when you take on an attitude of humility. You know, question, and this is the easiest question ever. Who was the ultimate example of humility in the Bible? Everybody say the Jesus answer. That's right, it was Jesus. You know, if you read Philippians 2:3-8, I read like a 20-page paper on this in college. It says that Christ humbled himself so much, he humbled himself to the point of death, even death on a cross. If you know anything about crucifixion, dying on a cross, back then it was the most humiliating form of death, the most humiliating form of execution. You know, if there's anyone who you want to try and model your life of humility after, it's Jesus. You know, think about tomorrow at school. Think about next time you walk into H4 on a Sunday morning. Think about next time you walk in here on a Wednesday night. Think about next time you hang out, say you guys are involved in a club at school, and you walk in, you meet that group. Next time you go to practice for your sports team. Approach it with the mindset of saying, or not saying, don't walk in saying, hey, what can you do for me? I'm the most important one here. What can you do for me? Instead, approach it by saying, you know what? I'm not the best here. I'm not the best here. What can I do for you? What can I do to not be at the center stage? What can I do to serve? That is when you truly give yourself an opportunity to be exalted, because people are going to notice that. They're going to see that attitude. They're going to see a humble attitude, and they're going to want to reward you for that. So always thinking about this question, what can I do to humble myself to others? Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this night. God, I just love these students. I love that we can have so much fun running around, and then we can just bring it in and have a good time of just being serious and getting into your word. God, thank you so much for sending Jesus down here and just having him live a perfect life where he was tested all the time and tempted, and the Pharisees would try and prank him, but every single time he had just the right words to pass the test. God, I thank you so much that we can serve you and know that you're perfect, that you've never messed up. So happy that I'm on your side. God, just be with these students as they go to school, as they go to their sports team, as they go to whatever activities they're involved in. Help them to stay humble. Help them to take on this attitude that says humility first. Like, I don't want to be first. Let these students be humble to give themselves an opportunity to be exalted, to be brought up into a higher spot. God, just keep these kids safe doing whatever they're doing. Be with the students who are in impact. Help them stay up with their devotions and their verse memorizing and the EE. Just help them to stay strong with that and bring them all back here safely on Sunday, God. Amen. You are dismissed.